There was a man who spent 3 years building toward one moment. He had a plan, a real one, not a dream, a plan. He had the steps written down. He knew who he needed to call, what he needed to say, which doors would open if he just kept moving forward. He had built his entire life around this one thing, his mornings, his prayers, even the way he talked to Allah, it was all pointing toward this one direction. And then one Tuesday, it was gone. Not slowly, not with warning, gone. And he told me something I have never forgotten. He said, I didn't just lose the thing, I lost the version of myself I thought I was becoming. That is what this is about. Not just loss, not just pain, but that specific, suffocating kind of loss where what leaves you is something you had organized your entire self around. And the frightening part? Sometimes, that moment is more revealing than it is destructive. Sometimes the thing being taken is not a punishment. It is an answer to a question you did not even know you were asking. But let us not rush there, because before that clarity comes, there is pain, real pain, and it deserves to be spoken. You really thought you needed it. Not in a weak way, not in a desperate, irrational way. You thought you needed it the way you think you need air. Because in your mind, without it, nothing worked. Without it, the future made no sense. Without it, you did not know who you were supposed to be. You built plans around it. You sacrificed for it. You turned down other things because of it. You stayed patient through difficulty because of it. You told yourself, once this comes through, everything will settle. Once this arrives, I will finally feel okay. And so, you waited. And you held on. And you prayed. And you worked. And you believed. And then it was taken. Maybe it happened in a single moment, one phone call, one conversation, one door that closed so hard you felt it in your chest. Or maybe it was gradual, so slow that by the time you realized it was gone, you had already been grieving for months without a name for what you were feeling. Either way, when it left, it did not just hurt. It confused you. Because you had done everything right, you had been patient, you had made dua, you had trusted, so why? If you were supposed to trust Allah, and you did, then why did the thing you trusted Him for get taken away? That question, that one question, it sat in you like a stone. Why this? Why now? Why after everything? And you went quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, the hollow kind. The kind where you go through your day. You respond when people speak to you. You eat, you sleep, but inside, something has stopped moving. Something that used to have direction now just sits. You replayed everything, every decision, every prayer, every moment you chose this thing over something else. You wondered if you had made a mistake somewhere. You wondered if this was correction. You wondered if Allah was angry or distant or simply testing you in a way that felt too heavy to carry. And in that space, in that raw, unfiltered, honest space, something happened. You spoke to Allah differently, not with the polished words you usually bring, not with the structured du'as and the careful sentences. You spoke the way a person speaks when they have nothing left to perform. When the mask is gone and the exhaustion is real and you are simply there, broken and present and honest. No perfect words. No performance. Just, I don't understand. I'm struggling. I needed that. And now it's gone. And I don't know what you're doing. That conversation, that raw, imperfect, tear-stained conversation that may have been the most real thing you had said to Allah in years. Because here is what attachment does to us, and we rarely see it until it is removed. When we have something we believe we cannot live without, we stop speaking to Allah about our lives and we start negotiating with Him for our outcomes. Our prayers shift. Our tawakkul becomes conditional. We trust Allah, but only in the direction of this one thing. We rely on Him, but only if He confirms what we have already decided we need. And slowly, quietly, without even noticing, the thing we love starts to sit where Allah is supposed to sit. Not because we are bad people, not because our faith is fake, but because we are human, and humans attach, deeply, fully, in ways that can quietly replace reliance with dependency on the created instead of the Creator. You thought it was holding you together, but maybe it was holding you in place. Maybe every step you had mapped out, every plan you had constructed, every future you had imagined, maybe it was all pointing you further and further from the person you were actually supposed to become. Not a worse version. Not a lesser version, just a version that was being held inside a shape that was never yours. And Allah, who knows what is inside the chest, who knows what you cannot see, who knows the end from the beginning, saw that. He saw what that thing was quietly doing to you. He saw the subtle pride that had grown around it, the tightness that had formed, the way you had stopped being able to imagine a version of your life without it. And in His mercy, not His punishment, His mercy, He removed it. This does not mean it did not hurt. It did. It still does, perhaps. This does not mean you were wrong to want it. You were not. This does not mean something better is guaranteed to come in its place, handed to you neat and obvious and soon. Maybe something will. Maybe the shift will be internal, not external. Maybe what changes is not your circumstances, but the size of your heart, how much it can hold, how loosely it can grip, how freely it can trust. You did not get it back, but you also no longer need it the same way. That is the change. That is the quiet miracle hidden inside the loss. Not that the loss was small, it was not. Not that the grief was wrong, it was real. But that somewhere in the process of losing what you thought defined you, you discovered that you were still there. Still breathing. Still capable of turning to Allah. Still somehow okay. The version of you that existed before this loss, that version was certain they needed this thing to survive. And the version of you on the other side of it is learning something that cannot be taught any other way. That you are more than what you were holding on to. You are not the plan that fell apart. You are not the door that closed. You are not the thing that was taken. You were there before it. And you are here after it. And that all by itself is not nothing. Imam Ibn al-Qayyim wrote something that stayed with me. He said that the most beneficial trial is the one that forces you back to Allah. Not the easiest trial, not the shortest, the most beneficial. Because the purpose of this life was never comfort, it was return. Every road, whether smooth or broken, is meant to bring you back to the one who sent you here. And sometimes the smoothest roads lead us furthest away. Because when everything works, when everything arrives, when everything confirms our plans, we stop needing to return. We start to feel settled in the dunya the way we were only meant to feel settled in Allah. So, He shakes the ground, not out of cruelty, out of love, the way a parent calls a child back from a road before the child even sees the car coming. You did not see what He saw. You still may not see it, but you can trust the one who does. And that trust, the kind that survives loss, the kind that does not require an explanation, the kind that says, I don't understand, but I believe you are good. That trust is worth more than any plan that could have come through. Not everything you lose was meant to stay. Not everything you thought you needed was actually sustaining you. Some things were holding you back under the appearance of holding you up. Some plans were keeping you small under the feeling of moving forward. Some attachments were quietly closing your heart to what Allah was actually trying to give you, which is not always a thing, or a person, or a door. Sometimes what He wants to give you is closeness to Him, dependence on Him, a heart that has learned to hold things loosely and to let go when He asks. That is a gift that looks nothing like a gift when it arrives. And the man I told you about at the beginning, the one who lost his 3-year plan on a Tuesday, he said to me, 2 years later, quietly, not dramatically, not with a lesson attached, he said, I think that was the most important thing that ever happened to me. Not because of what came after, but because of who I became while I was learning to live without it. He is not the same person. The old version of him would not have been capable of what his life holds now. Not because the new things are bigger or better on paper, but because he is softer, more open, less afraid of losing things, more honest with Allah, more present. That is not a small thing. That is everything. May Allah give us the strength to accept what is taken not blindly, not painlessly, but with a trust that is bigger than our confusion. May He give us the clarity to understand, slowly, that not everything we gripped was sustaining us, and not everything He removed was abandonment. May He open our hearts after our losses, instead of hardening them, and may He be enough for us in the moments when nothing else is. Ameen.